and welcome to this short orientation to a new center at Ashoka University called Center for Economic Data and Analysis. I'm Ashwini Deshpande. I'm a professor of economics at Ashoka and the director of CEDA. In this presentation, we'll take you through the key elements of this center and how you can engage with it. The basic motivation behind setting up CEDA was to promote evidence-based research and evidence-based discussions of socioeconomic problems related to India. And data is something that sounds enormous, it sounds frightening. And at CEDA, we decided that we will demystify data. And how can we demystify data? One is we can make data accessible to a whole range of users. Now, when we say data, what we mean is millions of data points that are scattered as results of household surveys, as administrative data on government websites, data that is constantly being generated with literally every single action that we take. At CEDA, what we are trying to build is a data repository which produces summary statistics of this vast amount of information that is getting collected. These summary statistics will be useful to a variety of stakeholders, researchers who might want to use quick summaries of data in their analysis, journalists who want to promote a reasonable and evidence-based discussion on key socioeconomic topics, policy advocates, students, and in fact, actually, even to government itself. So even though the government is a producer of a large amount of this data, as I said earlier, it's scattered at different places. And it's not very easy to collate it and access it at one single place and make it more usable. And at CEDA, that's what we're trying to promote. My colleagues will explain this process in greater detail in a short while. In order to make the data usable, what we are doing is we are creating a back-end architecture, which is based upon complex unit level data, the kind of data for which you need extensive statistical training to use and analyze this data, which some of us have and some of us don't, and that's totally all right. But all of us need to see the results of this data. And at CEDA, we are creating this back-end architecture, which is producing at the front end short, concise, easy to understand, easy to use data summaries. And these data summaries are going to be available to you, are already available to you through tools of visualization and interactive, connecting different kinds of data in an interactive manner, which is defined by the user, that is you. So CEDA is actually for the specialist as well as for the public. In addition to creating this data portal, which we will explain in a bit, what we have is a set of content-driven panels in our website. What are these panels like? So we have, for example, a section called data narratives. These are little stories based upon data summaries that have been created stored on our data portal or from outside, which explain the latest socioeconomic trends that concern all of us as observers of the Indian economy. These are short pieces, these are analytical pieces, these most importantly are jargon-free, easy to understand stories. They could be on COVID, they could be on vaccination, they could be on employment, they could be on savings, they could be on demographic change, they could be on fertility rates, on a whole range of topics. And when you want to understand why you see the trend that you see, it's to the CEDA data narratives that you turn. We've also started a section called Picture This, because a story or can be told much more succinctly through a picture rather than writing a long analytical article. And through these Picture This short graphics. You get deep insights, again, about socioeconomic realities, about India. These come out at least once a week. Sometimes we've had more than one a week. And these, again, take you through a range of topics. We have a partnership with Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, CMIE, which is, in fact, a big source of data right now, that enables us to understand the current developments in the Indian economy. And the CEDA CMIE partnerships bring you monthly bulletins that focus not just on the here and now, but they also are taking a sort of a deep dive or a longer look at some of the trends in manufacturing, employment, incomes, wages, consumption expenditures, intentions to save over a longer period in the Indian economy. So, check out these CEDA CMI bulletins as well. We also have a page called the Researchers Corner. These pieces and these resources are a little more nerdy. They are more for researchers. These include, price deflators that researchers have to use in converting current prices to constant prices. These use, we have data commentaries explaining how variables can be measured and constructed. We have the time use survey data converted to a stata format, and so on and so forth. So these resources are mainly for researchers and for faculty or graduate students. In addition to all of these, we have in the media, several of us are engaged in media commentaries. We have our articles, we appear on media channels, we have spoken in podcasts, several of us in the economics faculty at Ashoka, and all of these resources are housed on the CEDA website. And it's a work in progress. We are continuously adding new sections and making it, strengthening the CEDA website. I will now hand over to my colleague, Professor Sabyasachi Das, who has in fact been with CEDA from its inception. And he'll take you through the CEDA data portal and CEDA content in greater detail. Over to you, Professor Das.
Thank you, Ashwini. Taking over from her, let me say a little bit more about the content aspect of CEDA. So as Ashwini has already mentioned, CEDA has serious engagement with the media. Various data narratives that CEDA publishes are picked up by various media organizations, and the CEDA CMI bulletins that Ashwini mentioned, which track the Indian economy and its various aspects, are also featured in various newspapers. For example, recently we published a CEDA CMI bulletin which showed that the manufacturing workforce has almost halved over a period of last few years, and this was featured in various newspapers, including in the lead article in Financial Express. As Ashwini also mentioned, various CEDA members write regular commentaries and opinion pieces and appear in various media interviews. Apart from this ongoing engagement with the media, CEDA also organized a couple of lecture series, and this is something that we want to continue. So, for example, the 2020 Infosys Prize winner was Professor Raj Chetty from Harvard University, and CEDA hosted the Infosys lecture where Professor Raj Chetty talked about how big data can be used to understand upward social mobility or lack of it in the context of the United States, and how these kinds of data can be useful in the context of India as well to understand social mobility. In a subsequent lecture, Professor Manmohan Aseri from University of Pittsburgh talked about how algorithmic biases creep in various decision-making processes which are currently have started using algorithms, and how one can go about detecting them and correcting for them. These are highly policy relevant issues that public should be aware about, and these kind of lecture series help us reach out to the larger public and make the sort of the ongoing research that is policy relevant accessible to all of us. Let me now move to the other equally important aspect of the CEDA website, which Ashwini talked about at the beginning, which is the data portal. If you visit the CEDA website, you will see that we have a beta version of the data portal up. You have to just provide your login credentials, and you will be able to start access the data portal. What we have here, so basically the idea of the data portal is to host various publicly available data sets and make them accessible through user-driven visualization tools that any of us can use to generate nice maps and charts and graphs that we can use for our research purposes, journalistic purposes, to write policy reports, etc. To give you sort of a very basic structure, we have several publicly available data sets such as the census, the National Sample Survey, the National Family Health Survey, and various variables that are captured in various of these data sets are then aggregated at various levels. So for example, if you want to know the fertility rate at the national level, these data, say the National Family Health Survey, will allow us to capture that, and this is something you can readily get at the CEDA data portal without having to access the raw data files and calculate this online. Similarly, if you want to know these fertility rates at the level of states, again, you will be able to get that very easily by selecting the state level map of India and showing kind of a heat map of that. Similarly, you can also generate the same variable, say fertility rates at the level of districts. So similarly, if you want to look at wages at the national level, at the state level, at the district level, this is again something that you'll be able to do using the CEDA data portal. Again, if you have to do this on your own, you would have to access the raw data files and generate this information on your own, which may not be possible for a vast majority of the public. And CEDA data portal allows the sort of larger public to access this information very easily and also visualize it. To sort of talk about these aspects of data portal in greater detail, I would request Rita to take us through the subsequent slides.
Great. Thank you, Saugata. I think so. One of the main, along with just the data, just making it available, I think a major feature of the CEDA website is to visualize the data both spatially as well as in through various scatter plots or bars or graphs or trend lines. So I think the starting with the heat map. So I think that the thing to probably bear in mind first is, why are we interested in this? Well, one major reason would be that India is a greatly diverse country, right? And even within states, there is tremendous diversity. So, for instance, if you consider Maharashtra, Western and Eastern Maharashtra look very different. In this heat map, which is looking at, for instance, the workers by the labor force participation across districts. If you see right on the right-hand side of the map to the south, like to southern India, Andhra Pradesh, right? Like there's various shades of two distinct shades of color, and that's essentially looking at the intensity of female labor force participation. And the darker it is, the greater the participation. And you can see that coastal Andhra Pradesh, it's much lighter than interior Andhra Pradesh, and that's probably because one reason could be there's some more intense drought, which involves more women to work in the labor force. So these visualizations, even looking within states, comparing within states spatially, that's something the CEDA website will do for you. You don't have to go and do the graph yourself. We shall present the figures and we shall give you an intuitive summary of what the data looks like. So you can do the visualizations. The data port will also let you If you say you need to do this for an academic project, maybe in your second or third year, students would need this. You can download the figure yourself and you can use it, just cite CEDA, and that's all you need to do for this. So the other, in addition to looking at, say, just one variable from one data set, the other thing which the data portal will allow you to do is to compare two variables, and not just from one data set, but from two distinct different data sets. So as Savyada just said that, if you had to do this, say, for yourself, you'd have to then download both the data sets and construct manipulate the raw data and construct the variables yourself for both data sets. Here, the data portal will do it for you. So maybe you want to consider, say, the correlation between labor force participation and maternal care. If women have to spend or devote a lot more time for maternal care, it draws them away from the labor force. And you might want to see whether state attitudes or state factors affect that. Does it vary across state? Well, you can do this on our website. So, for instance, this heat map, it has labor force participation on the left-hand side. It has maternal care on the right-hand side. One data is coming out from the National Sample Survey, and the other data is coming out from the NFHS. So again, we are combining two data sources, and you can try to get a sense of what the correlations are. Again, you can, if you like the figures, you can download the data. There's that nice little red arrow there. You can just click on that. The data is downloaded, and then you can use the data, just cite us in the process of doing so. Additionally, also along with the figures, the download option will also let you download the actual CSV files. So you can then use the raw data yourself, maybe do some, if you want to do some other comparisons, you can also do that. In addition to these heat maps, we also have the more traditional scatter plots. We have the trend lines. Again, you can also download the data and do it yourself. If you don't like our figures, you can create your own as well. So that flexibility is accorded to the user on the CEDA portal. So just giving a broad sense of what the data is. So again, so we have the Family Health Survey, the NFHS. We have the census. The census has a very large collection of data, a very granular level on demographics, on, say, the quality of housing, whether houses have a toilet or not, variables such as these, fertility rates, migration, that's all in the census. The NSS is a wonderful host of data, can give you labor force participation, can give you wages. At the moment, we are trying to also get data from the annual survey of industries, which is the major survey collecting data on manufacturing enterprises in India. So we are trying to get that data, so then you can get a sense of how the manufacturing sector has worked in the past, say, 20 years. And the interesting part is, again, you can compare variables across these two data sets. So for instance, whether, so there is this, if you have, say, a question that, okay, if is there substitutability or is there mobility of workers across the, say, in contractual manufacturing jobs and in agricultural jobs? Well, you can compare the NSS data for agricultural employment, and then you can compare that, say, in the same district using these heat maps or these charts in the same district or state with the fraction of workers working in, say, manufacturing employment. And along with that, so what we also allow is you can disaggregate the data by various categories. So not just state and district, not just geographical identifiers, but then you can go down further by, say, gender. You can go down by the category of worker. So is the worker in a casual type of an employment category, or is the worker a salaried worker, the more remunerative, well-paying jobs? And you can get wages for these workers based on the NSS data. So it's not just the raw averages across all categories within a state or district, but you can also subdivide, sort of slice and dice the data a bit more to get a more nuanced picture of just broad averages which are present in the data. So it's a very useful tool, especially for students who are going into maybe their third year. You can try to use the data to substantiate a broad theoretical or a broad conceptual argument in your paper. You can use it to motivate your paper's preliminary arguments. You can even download the data and try to do some of your own empirical analysis. So very useful tool. Similarly, journalists or other users can also consider using this. So now I'll hand it over to Professor Kanika Mahajan, who will tell us of the various opportunities there are for students at CEDA beyond just downloading and using the data.
So thank you to my colleagues, Professor Deshpande, Professor Riddhi, and Professor Das for giving us a glimpse into what CEDA's activities are and how the data portal looks like. So what are the ingredients that go into making the data portal that you see online? So of course, one is the CEDA staff that is constantly involved in building the portal that you see. But apart from the regular CEDA staff, we have high student engagement. In fact, students play an instrumental role in building the data sets that you see online. We have both undergraduate as well as postgraduate students who are hired as interns, either during the summer or during the winter. In fact, some of the students also engage with CEDA on, throughout the year. It's not just during the summer and the winter that they interact with us, depending upon how much time they're willing to allocate to the activities at CEDA. And students are majorly involved at the very beginning in scraping the data set, especially the administrative data sets as we add them to the data portal, extracting the unit level data sets from the TXT or the CSV files that the governments provide in various sources for the surveys that are done by the government itself. They extract this data, they make it into a usable format, they analyze the data, construct the summary statistics that you see online when you select the various options on the portal. So at the back end, almost all the work in terms of getting the summary stats out of the unit level data sets are done mostly by the students at Ashoka. Apart from working with the data and bringing to you these statistics, students are also actively engaged in creating visual content using this data, as well as the written content that you see sometimes as data narratives or sometimes as picture this on the CEDA portal. So what are CEDA's future plans? First and foremost, we wish to enhance the data portal. One way of enhancing the data portal is adding more layers of data to it. So for instance, currently we have the National Sample Survey, the National Family Health Survey, census, and the sampling registration system currently on the portal. We wish to complement these data with adding summary statistics at the industry and the firm level, so as to bring both the pictures from the household level as well as from the industry and the demand level to the researchers and to policymakers, so as to bring the mood of the Indian economy on the portal as we go along. Secondly, as we've already mentioned, we wish to digitize a lot of administrative data which may be available in PDF formats or scattered in different places. For instance, the data set which is compiled by the Crime Bureau on crimes. Some of them is available at the district level in the PDF file. Some of them is available on Excel files. Others are on different, if you browse the NCRB portal, it's available at different places. So we wish to bring all of it together, match the district names across the years, which keep changing, so that it allows researchers, students, policymakers to then plot these data sets in a coherent manner, which they otherwise may have struggled to do if they would have started with scratch, trying to use such admin data. So we hope that providing digitized administrative data would also help the government itself, in terms of looking at what's really going on with the data that they're collecting. Second, we wish to improve both the user interface as well as the user experience on the portal by adding more visualization options as we go along. And one of the most important thing here is going to be adding more high-end infographics to what we already have on the portal. We also wish to add audio-visual content on contemporary Indian economy topics as we develop the portal, so as to also demystify some of, apart from demystifying data, also demystify some of the usual concepts of economics, which may be relevant to the current policy scenario. We also wish to host more lectures as well as panel discussions on contemporary topics as we go along and we develop the portal and the center. So the center is more than just the portal. So portal is just one part of the center. So as the center grows and develops, we wish to add more and more things into its kitty. So we are present on various social media websites. Please engage, or feel free to engage with us on these on the social media. Follow us if you like the content and would like to get regular updates about what data narratives and picture this content we are posting on the website. If you have any feedback, you can always leave us a feedback on the portal, how we can improve it for greater utility as you use more and more features of the portal. Thank you.